here I welcome all of you in lecture number 2, where we are going to discuss about chapter number 2. And the special thing about today's session is that we are going to cover certain questions as well. So you are going to love this session, okay? But you have to stay with me till the end over here, okay? So let's just have a quick discussion on what we have covered in chapter number 1 so that we can start with chapter number 2 officially. Okay, so we started with the discussion of what is audit, what is assurance, then we discussed about certain objectives that ACCA wants us to understand. Then we discussed about objectives of an auditor, then we discussed about nature and development of audit, then we discussed about concept of accountability, stewardship, agency, then we discussed about assurance engagements, right? All of these notes we have created during that class. Then we discussed about elements of an assurance engagement. Then we discussed about types of assurance engagement, where we discussed about reasonable assurance and limited assurance engagements. Then we discussed about level of assurances provided by various other engagements, for example, external audit, other review engagements, other assurance engagements, agreed upon procedures. We discussed about all of this. Then we had a good discussion on what is true and fair view, because this term is going to be very, very important for us when we study audit. Then we discussed about expectation gap and closed our discussion for chapter number 1. We did not solve any questions in chapter number 1 because we wanted to solve it after completing chapter number 2. Okay, so today we are going to cover chapter number 2 as well. Okay, so now let's come to chapter number 2, which is external audits. External audits. My friends, first of all, I would like to understand from all of you that do you have any audit experience as of now? I would like to ask all of you who are present in the session, do you have any audit experience available as of now? Any audit experience that is available to you? Maybe you might have worked in audit, anything? Yes? Please confirm in yes or no. Even if it is not there, please confirm me in yes or no. That works. That would help us. Yes. So there might be a lag of 3 to 4 seconds when you write and when it reaches to me, okay? So not an issue over there. Yes? Okay, understood, okay, that's amazing, okay. Now let's first understand that what are the objectives of this chapter, okay? These objectives are not written by me, but these are officially given by ACCA body, okay? So let's try to understand what are the objectives of this chapter, okay? But before we start, I would like to clarify it. Will you get these notes? Yes, you will get these notes. Don't worry about it. Okay. Will you get the board notes also that whatever we are writing during the class? Will you get the copy of it in the official classes? Yes, you will get that also. Not an issue. Okay. Now objectives. So the first objective is describe the regulatory environment within which the external audit takes place. Okay. We have discussed a lot about what are regulatory frameworks. Okay, under which audit works. But here we have to be a little specific that what are the regulatory environments under which external audit works. Now external audit is a little more detailed and little more specific assignment that we will be discussing. Okay, although we had a discussion about it during our reasonable assurance engagement discussion, right? Now where to see these notes? Okay, so generally these are available over here, but if you want to access it, I'll mention a number in the description. You can call that number and you can get the notes also. Okay, now discuss the reasons and mechanisms for the regulation of auditors. That is, why the regulatory framework is required. Why can't we leave audit profession to the best of the professional judgment of the auditors? Why is there a requirement of the regulation? That is very, very important, right? Then explain the statutory regulation. Now what is the meaning of this word statutory? So my friends, we will be learning about it in this session only. Okay, so please stay with me here. Now explain the statutory regulations governing the appointment. They could have just written regulations, right? Why statutory regulations? So we will discuss about it. Okay, governing the appointment, rights, removal and resignation of auditors. Governing what? Appointment of auditors, rights of auditors, removal of auditors and resignation of auditors. I hope this is understandable and this is clear to you as well. Now let's move to the next part, which is explain the regulations governing the rights and duties of the auditors. There are certain rights which are given to auditor, there are certain duties which are given to auditor. We have to discuss in detail about both of them. Okay, then discuss the limitations of external auditors. External audits. My friends, we usually think that external auditor could ask anything, right? External auditor could do anything. They are the most powerful people. Then can there be any limitations? Yes, there are certain limitations, and officially they are called as inherent limitations of audit, and it is very, very important for all of us to understand it clearly. Okay, then explain the development and status of ISS, as in how the ISS, what is the full form of ISS? international standards on auditing. We will be learning in today's session that how these standards are created, what is the process, who creates these standards, which is the organization. Okay, we will be discussing about it, and the status. When I say status, what do I mean by it? That what is the current status, how many countries are following it, or what kind of countries are following it, or how it is being looked upon. We will be discussing about each one of them. Then explain the relationship between ISAs and national standards. For example, I am sitting in India as of now. Okay, here we follow certain standards which are created by Indian bodies, okay, Indian regulatory bodies. However, it has certain relation with ISAs as well. We are following ISAs also in some manner. So we will be discussing about it, that how ISAs are affecting the national regulations worldwide. Okay. Then we will be discussing about the overall objectives and importance of quality management. Now this term is very important for us when we try to study audit. This term becomes very important for us when we discuss about any part of audit, quality management. Why this is important, the quality management? Because what happens is that as of now, as with the increase in risk in case of audits, there's an increase in quality management requirements also. There are separate set of standards which are created. You might have heard of ISQM, International Standards on Quality Management. So those standards are particularly created to ensure quality both at the local level and at the engagement level and at the firm level also. Okay, procedures in conducting an audit. So we will be discussing about this. Then we will have a good discussion about the quality management procedures which should be in place over engagement resources, engagement performance, monitoring, remediation, compliance with ethical requirements. What are these? These are nothing but the components of quality management for an audit for an engagement of audit. Okay, for an audit engagement. So what is it? It is the component, as in what quality management process is made of. So there are total 6 components. Okay, so we will be discussing about each one of them, that what are these components, and these components are these points only that are written over here that we have to discuss in detail about engagement performance, engagement resources and everything. And finally, we will be discussing about how to evaluate quality management deficiencies and provide recommendations to allow compliance with quality management requirements. Okay. For today, what we are going to do is we are going to focus on these requirements which are mentioned in this page. The regulatory environment, the external audits, the reasons and mechanism for regulation, the statutory regulations for appointment, rights, removal, resignation, the regulations governing the rights and duties of the auditor, limitations of external audit, development and status of ISAs, and relationship between ISA and national standards. This is what we are going to cover today, and the quality management, the basis of quality management also. But as we move further to our further classes, that is the next class, we will be discussing about these 2 objectives also, because these are quite detailed in manner. Okay, so it won't be right if we covered everything today. What we will be doing is we will be completing up to here, then we will be going for the question solving. Okay, so we will be solving certain questions from chapter number 1 as well as chapter number 2, and then when we will be meeting for the next class, that is on Friday at 8 p.m. Okay, then what we will be doing is we will be discussing about these 2 points in detail, and then we will be moving towards next chapters. Okay, so that is our plan for today's lecture and the next lecture. Okay, I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? If there are any questions, please feel free to let me know. If there are any questions, please feel free to let me know. I hope this is clear till here. Okay, I hope this is clear till here. Okay. Okay, so I think everything is clear till here. Okay, now let's go for the first discussion, which is regulatory environment for audit. Regulatory environment for audit. What is the regulatory environment for audit? As in, is it an activity which does not require any regulation, or there are regulatory provisions that are put over here? Yes, there are strong regulatory provisions that are put over the auditing profession for external audits. Okay, so predominantly statutory. We have come to the time when we are going to learn about this term statutory. What is the meaning of this term statutory? Statutory means required by law. Statutory means required by law, and that is why external audits are also called as statutory audits, because these are required by law. Okay, now predominantly statutory, that is generally audit is required as per the laws and regulations of a particular country and a jurisdiction. We will be using the word jurisdiction rather than country, rather than city. What we will be doing is we will be using the word jurisdiction over here. Okay, now that is required by national law, what we call it as statute in general terms. Okay, now however some jurisdictions allow for audit exemption. What could be that? What could be that? For example, you know, in India there are certain firms, there are certain organizations which are not required to get their accounts audited. Okay, in various other countries you will see that there are multiple companies, multiple types of organizations which are not subject to statutory audit. What could be those companies? Those could be small companies, those could be less risky companies, those could be less complex entities. Okay, so small companies having concentration of ownership and management, that is the concentration of ownership and management is in few hands only, that is there are few people, maybe a family, who are the owners of that company, maybe two brothers who are the owners of that company, maybe two sisters who are the owners of that company. So that is a small company that does not require audits in multiple countries, multiple jurisdictions. Okay, few sources of income and simple management and structures and accounting functions, that is there are three sets of companies generally, okay, generally speaking, which does not require the external audit in multiple jurisdictions. Number one being the small companies, okay, having concentration of power and ownership. Number two being the companies or the organizations having few sources of income, and number three being the companies which have simple management and accounting processes. Okay, generally these three are the points. Do you need to mug these points up? No, definitely these are for general understanding only. You can write different points also, plus this is not a very important question for the examination also. Okay, so not an issue over there. Now let's move to the next part. Okay, now let's move to the next part. Okay, now let's move to the next part. Mechanisms. What do we mean by mechanisms over here? That is, what are the sources, what are generally the sources through which the audit profession is regulated? There are regulatory frameworks, but what are the sources? So auditors need to be regulated to ensure that they maintain high standards of audit work. It is not saying that we do not trust the auditors. It is nowhere saying that we do not trust the auditors. It's just saying that, you know, when the regulations would be there would be more of standardization. There would be more of standardization in following the compliances, and there would not be any work that might be sounding as unethical. Okay, and the reputation with the public is maintained. What are the two objectives? Number one, they maintain high standards of audit work, and number two, their reputation with the public is maintained. Okay, so for high standards and for maintenance of the reputation in the public eyes. Okay, generally auditors are regulated by what? Now let us write something over here. Statute means what? The laws and regulations. Generally auditors are regulated by laws and regulations, by creating laws and regulations, that every auditor that needs the audit assignment in a particular jurisdiction shall abide by certain laws and regulations. Okay, number two, licensing requirements. For example, in a lot of jurisdictions, only practitioners who have a particular certificate of practice, for example in India also, you can only sign the balance sheets or audit reports or financial statements when you have a certificate of practice as a chartered accountant. For example, I am also a chartered accountant, but I do not have certificate of practice, so can I sign? No, licensing requirements are there. Okay, so for example, practicing members, only practicing members would be signing the financial statements. Okay, only practicing members would be signing the financial statements. Okay, I am reading your chats also so that I do not miss out on anything. Just in case if you are facing any trouble, please feel free to let me know on the chat box. Okay, then there are competence requirements. You know, a professional generally is required to update themselves, the knowledge, the skills, the experience, in the form of CPE also. You might have heard of CPE, continued professional education, right? It is required in a lot of professional bodies, so in the form of say CPEs. Okay, then professional conduct. See, if there are any disciplinary proceedings going against you, a lot of organizations, a lot of accountancy bodies reserve this right that they will not allow you to conduct any more audits, and you might have heard of several cases like this, right? So professional conduct is very much required. Auditing standards. Generally audits are required by auditing standards, that is there are SAs, there are ISAs which are created, there are international standards, there are nation specific standards, there are jurisdiction specific standards which are created through which auditing profession is regulated. Then disciplinary procedures of professional accounting bodies. For example, in India also ICAI has a lot of disciplinary proceedings that you need to abide by to conduct or to be able to conduct the audits of financial statements. Okay. Now let's move to the next part. Okay, which is International Federation of Accountants. What is this IFAC? Ever heard of this word IFAC? Anybody? Anybody who has heard of this word IFAC? IFAC, International Federation of Accountants. Anybody who has heard of it? Anybody in the comment section, please let me know if you have ever heard of it. IFAC. What is IFAC? What is IFAC? Yes, what is IFAC? Anybody who has heard of it? Anybody who has heard of it? IFAC. Anybody who has heard of it? Anybody? Okay. I suppose that this is a very new concept for you, right? That there's something called as IFAC. But before going for the mission and vision of the IFAC, let me tell you that IFAC has majorly 4 standard setting bodies. When I say standard setting bodies, that is, these are the bodies under IFAC which has the right to set the standards. For example, ISAs are also standards, right? So these bodies have the rights to create certain standards. Okay. Now, number 1, what is IAASB? What is IAASB? What is IAASB? So IAASB stands for International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board. That is, whatever ISAs you are saying, whatever ISAs we will be studying, those would be created by IAASB. What would be the name of the committee, name of the board? IAASB, International Auditing and Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, which sets high quality international standards for auditing, assurance and related areas. Related areas could be other assurance engagements. Okay. Yes, it is main body of all professional bodies. Yes, a lot of accounting bodies are the members of IFAC. Okay. So let me write it over here. What are the other related areas? That could be other assurance engagements, or those could be non-assurance engagements also in certain cases. Now, there's something called as ISBA. We politely call it as ISBA. Okay, IESBA, ISBA. What is the full form? The full form is International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants. You know, a lot of people write it International Ethical Standards Board, but I would say that we have to remember the names of the organization as it is. Okay, so International Ethics Standard Board for Accountants. International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants. Will you be able to remember it? ISBA. Will you be able to remember it? ISBA. So generally these two are going to be relevant for us, IAASB and IESBA, ISBA. Okay. However, in this chapter, what is going to be relevant for us? IAASB. Okay, IAASB is going to be very, very relevant for us in this chapter. Now, the third organization, or before going for the third organization, what ISBA does, sets robust ethical standards for professional accountants worldwide. You know, when I recorded my demo, I recorded for chapter number 4, okay, which is professional ethics. And when we discussed the professional ethics over there, we discussed about that these ethics are sometimes created by ISBA, okay, although there are other regulations also, but a lot of times these standards are created by ISBA. Okay, now the next one, which is IAESB. IAESB. If you have any questions, please feel free to write me on the chat box. Okay, I'm available over here, not an issue. Okay, IAESB. So I have kept my phone over here and I'm reading all the chats over here. Okay, so not an issue. IAESB. So International Accounting Education Standards Board. International Accounting Education Standards Board. This organization, this body particularly takes care of that how the communication would happen of the standards. So develop guidance, conduct research. Develop guidance, conduct research and facilitate exchange of information. That is how the exchange of information would happen in the field of accountancy. Okay, that is how the education would be passed on. Then IPSASB. IPSASB. But do you need to remember these two terms by heart? No. Okay, you do not need to learn the part of it, that what are the roles and responsibilities. You do not need to particularly learn about it. Can they come in MCQs? Yes, they can come in MCQs, but you just need to remember the full form of it generally. Okay, otherwise it is self-explanatory also, no, that education board takes care of what? The communication part. Now, IPSASB, International Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. International Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. This majorly takes care of what? The public sector, the government sector, standards for public sector, right? So develop standards for use by governments and other public sector entities. I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? Any questions that you think of? Yes, any question that you want to ask here? I would be happy to answer. Please tell me. Please tell me. Yes. Now, International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, International Federation of Accountants, what is the mission and vision of it? Okay, let's first discuss about the vision of it. Okay, so it is a global accountancy, the vision of IFAC is that global accountancy profession is recognized as a valued leader in developing strong and sustainable organizations, financial markets and economies. That is, it has a vision that it wants to focus on what? Developing sustainable organizations. So global accountancy profession should be recognized as a valued leader in developing strong and sustainable organizations, financial markets and economies. That is, it wants to throw much light on the importance of the global accountancy profession, and that is why IFAC has created certain bodies which are creating standards which needs to be abided by auditors as well as other organizations as well. Okay, now what is the mission? But sir, instead of writing it like this on a paragraph, what you could have done is you could have given us the bullet points. Yes, I could have given us the bullet points. Let me tell you what are the points. Serve public interest. By what? Serve a public interest. But by what? Serve a public interest. But by what? Contributing to the development, adoption and implementation of high quality international standards and guidance, contributing to the development of strong professional accountancy organizations and accounting firms and high quality practices by professional accountants, promoting the value of professional accountants worldwide, and speaking out on public interest issues where the profession's expertise is more relevant. What you could have done is, sir, okay, wrote it as first point, right? What could I have done? I could have wrote it as first point. What I could have done, I could have wrote it as second point. I could have wrote it as what? I could have wrote it as second point. What I could have done is I could have gone for this part and wrote it as fourth point. I could have done that. I could have done what? I could have wrote it as fourth point, and that is how we could have summarized. But the problem is that you do not need to mug these up. You do not need to learn about these points. Okay, that is why I have not written it. I have just mentioned it over here for the purpose of your knowledge, because we are not just studying for the purpose of clearing an examination. You should also know about what is the mission, what is the vision of IFAC, and that is why I have written it over here. There's no other use of it. Okay, so you do not need to learn about it. You should have a general idea that why IFAC is created, why, what is the vision of it, what is the mission of it, and that is it. Okay, you do not need to learn it, and that is why I have not given it points 1, 2, 3, 4, because the content would have been lengthy then, and it is not required for you to remember it. Understood this point? Understood this point? Because we have to learn a lot, but we also have to create summaries which are exam focused, right? So that we are able to clear the examination also, and we are able to generate the knowledge also. So it is anyways required to know about the knowledge, but what we have to do is we have to summarize that knowledge in such a way that we are able to highlight that these points are important for the examination also. Okay, understood this point? Yes? Yes? Okay. Now let's go for the scope and development of ISAs. Before that, let me ask you a question here. Let me ask you a question over here. Okay, tell me something. If I ask you today, say there are, let me write it over here. I am doing an engagement. Okay, there are say 30 standards. Okay, I'm just taking an example. Okay, ISA 1 to ISA 30. Okay, 30 standards are there. I have followed 29 of these standards. 29 followed, one I have not followed. Okay, can I write in my audit report, as per your knowledge, as per your current knowledge? Okay, tell me, can I write in my audit report that I have conducted this audit? I'm writing it in a very simple language. I have conducted as per ISAs. Can I say that I have followed 29 standards out of 30, not the 30th? Okay, that is one standard I have not followed. Can I write it that I have conducted my audit as per ISAs? Can I say that? What do you say? What do you think? Then we'll discuss about the scope and development of ISAs. Yes. Tell me, what do you think? What do you think? Let me know on the chat box. What do you think? What do you think? Let me know on the chat box. What do you think? Yes. Okay, so I'll tell you what happens is that we cannot write it over here that what we have done is we have followed all the ISs. No, you cannot say that. Either you have to follow fully, or even if one standard is unfollowed or not followed, you cannot write it over there. Okay, now let's discuss about this scope and development of ISs. Okay, so there's a scope, then there is development in the on the next page. Okay, now how many pages we have summarized this chapter number 2 in? 16 pages only. 16 pages only, plus 3-4 pages that would be there for the next topic, which is some explanation about the last 2-3 objectives. Okay, now scope, all standards relevant to the audit, all standards relevant to the audit, all standards. Okay, all, let me write it over here, all, not even one exclusion. Okay, all standards relevant to the audit, that are relevant to the audit. For example, there are certain standards which are not relevant to the audit, you can ignore it, but all standards relevant to the audit, all standards relevant to the audit process for an assignment must be. What is the meaning of must be here? Must be as in mandatorily. Must be as in what? Mandatorily. Okay, must be followed, mandatorily followed. Okay, now ISs require auditors to use their professional judgment when applying them. ISs require auditors to use their professional judgment when applying them. See, a lot of times you will see when we will be discussing the standards, which we have already started, by the way. We discussed about ISA 200 in the last class, right? So when we will be discussing about standards in detail, you will realize that a lot of places are there where the professional judgment is given to auditor. That is, whatever auditor's professional judgment says, you can follow it. For example, what party should be selected for external confirmations? Now this is not given by standards. Auditor needs to select as per their professional judgment that what parties needs to be selected for external confirmations. Okay, so wherever it is mentioned, auditor needs to follow what? Auditor needs to follow the professional judgment of the auditor. Okay, in exceptional circumstances, sometimes it might happen that auditor is doing what is not written in the standard. That is, auditor is deviating. Auditor is what? Deviating. When I say the word deviating, what do I mean by it? For example, auditing standard says to follow this path. Auditor is following this path. Can auditor do so? Yes. Can auditor do so? Yes. But in what cases? In exceptional circumstances. Okay. In exceptional circumstances, if auditor departs, the departure must be justified in the working papers. That is, the departure that they have not followed the requirement of a particular standard must be justified. But where? In the working papers. In the working papers. Okay, that is the internal document of the auditor. Okay, now an auditor can only state compliance with ISs when all standards, that is what is the meaning of this word? All standards, not even one exclusion. But are these standards full? No. All standards relevant, that is, whatever are the relevant standards, you have followed it. Whatever are the relevant standards that you have to follow, and you have to follow all such standards to the specific circumstances of the audit have been complied with. I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? I hope this is clear. Any questions so far? Yes, please feel free to let me know in the chat box if there is any question. So we have covered what? We have covered the objectives, we have covered regulatory environment, we have covered mechanisms. What we have done is we have covered International Federation of Accountants, that is basics about IFAC. We have discussed about standard setting boards. We have discussed about scope and development of ISS, but we have discussed only about the scope. Now we need to discuss about the development part over here. Okay, so I hope there are no questions. Thank you so much. Okay, I can see Swapna is responding. Thank you so much. Okay, yes. Now development, how these standards are developed. So there's a whole process that goes. Okay, do you need to remember this process? Yes, you need to remember this process. Okay, project, propose and input sort. Okay, do you need to remember this process word by word? No. Do you need to remember this process? Yes. Do you need to remember this process word by word? No. You can write the keywords. Okay, project, proposed and input sort. That is, what happens is, project means here, project means what? Project means the standard. So for example, today assuming that there is no standard by the name of say ISA 750, okay, ISA 750. Now what this board wants to do is this board wants to create a particular standard by the name of ISA 750, okay. Now what they would do, they would propose this project and input sort, that is they would propose this project to the relevant authorities and they will seek the input, that is whether we should create this standard or not. If approved, that is if it has been approved that yes you can create this standard, project is assigned to a task force. Project is assigned to a task force. What is this task force? People or committee who will draft it. Okay, who will draft it. How they will draft? They might be requiring the research. So research carried out in exposure draft is prepared. Who will prepare this exposure draft and who will do the research? The task force. Okay, they will be doing the research and they will be drafting. Okay, then draft placed on IFAC website. IFAC has a website and there this draft would be done or uploaded. But when I say draft, what do I mean by it? Draft, it would be called as, professionally it would be called as exposure draft. Whenever I have written draft, it needs to be read as exposure draft. Okay, and that is the technical word. Can you write draft in your exam? No, you have to write exposure draft only. Okay, so exposure draft placed on IFAC website and distributed for comments to member bodies, interested parties. But a lot of students makes this mistake over here, that they forget to write general public also. So this becomes a little important point here, that this exposure draft is also available to public at large for their comments on this. Okay, but what will happen is, if we open this draft for comments by everybody, then we might be losing out on a lot of credibility, right? That is what happens is, anybody who does not have any knowledge of the IFAC, who does not have any knowledge of ISAs, who does not have any knowledge of standards, they might come and give their comments, right? Those comments cannot be or may not be backed by the professional education. So comments are received and considered, that is we receive the comments and then it is considered that whether this comment has merit or not, whether this comment makes sense or not. Then draft is revised and reissued. But when it is revised and reissued, if there are significant changes, what is significant? That depends on the professional judgment. Okay, if significant changes are there, then the draft is revised and reissued. And then revised ED means what here? ED means what? ED means the exposure draft. Revised what? Revised exposure draft is approved and issued as a standard. So this standard might be ISA 750. Okay, understood this point? Now see, why do we write these things? We could have just given it to you on the notes only, right? But what happens is, when you attend the live classes or when you see the videos, you should feel that you are writing something also. Okay, although I will be giving you these board notes, but whenever you prepare these notes for your particular revision at the day end of the exam, that is whenever there's an exam, there would be a day before that when you need to revise everything, right? So you should customize these notes according to your own requirement. For example, if you think that you will forget this task force, you should write it. If you will not forget it, then there's no requirement of writing it. Okay, so you should customize it. I have given you good notes, but what you need to do is you need to customize it according to your requirement. Okay, so I have kept a lot of blank spaces over there. For example, this is a blank space. I could have just written this thing over here, but why I have given this blank space? So that you can also write your own notes. Okay, but my only suggestion would be that whenever you create your own notes, okay, whenever you create your own notes, what you should do is you should always try that you are not using the colors that are being used in these notes. For example, you should avoid using red or maroon. You can avoid using, or you should avoid using blue. You should avoid using green as well. Okay, understood this point? Now the next point. Do you have any questions so far? Anything that you would like to discuss? I can see that there are certain people on the live session. So if you have any questions, yes, please let me know. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, we can move forward to eligibility to become an auditor. Eligibility, is it simple? Yes, it is simple. But it is like anybody could become an auditor? No, definitely not. There are certain requirements that needs to be fulfilled to become an auditor. Okay, let's discuss about one of them. Okay, now Eligibility to become an auditor. Eligibility to become an auditor. What are the eligibility to become an auditor? Should be appropriately qualified. Now this word appropriately qualified means what? This word appropriately qualified means what? So this word is judgmental. Okay, this word is judgmental. Judgmental as in what? That it can be interpreted by different people in different ways. Okay, so a member generally a member of a recognized professional body, say you will be qualifying as an ACCA. Is ACCA a recognized professional body? Yes. There are members of ICI. Is ICI a recognized professional body? Yes. Holding an approved international qualification. This international qualification should be approved in Indian CA. Is it an approved qualification? Yes. ACCA, is it an approved qualification? Yes. Okay. In most jurisdictions, okay, it has just given the guidance. Do you need to remember it by heart? No. Okay, so generally any auditor should be appropriately qualified. Appropriately qualified is judged via qualification and via what? Via approved international qualification. Okay, now in most jurisdictions, independence is also required. For example, in India, if you have to conduct any statutory audit, what you need is independence. Independence as in you should not be dependent on the client. Okay, now we will be throwing much light on this when we will be discussing about chapter number 4, which is professional ethics. Okay, but let me explain this to you in basic sense. Okay, for example, my brother runs a company. Okay, I am a qualified chartered accountant and ACCA, and what I have done is I have taken certificate of practice also. Okay, my brother runs a company. He wants to get his accounts audited, and I accepted this assignment. Okay, I have a sibling. Okay, he is running a company, and I am a professional chartered accountant and ACCA, and I want to audit that company. Can I do that? No, because I will not be independent. Even if my cousin has opened a company and they want me to do it, and if it is a first cousin or a cousin whom I am very close with, then also I cannot audit that company. Now you know what happens. Generally, it is nowhere written that you cannot audit your own cousin's company. But what we need to look for is independence of mind. Independence of mind, not just of appearance. As in, even if you are looking independent, but if you are not truly independent. For example, in case of my cousin, if you open the family chart, I might not come out as a very close relative, but I am very close with him. I am very close with him. Now, can I audit? No. Why? Because independence should be of mind and not just of appearance. We will be discussing each one of these terms when we will be moving towards chapter number 4, which is professional ethics. Okay. Now, recognized supervisory body. Okay, let's have a quick discussion about it. What I have done is I have created these clouds over here. Why I have done that? Because whenever you study, there should be certain important points that are highlighted in these clouds that you do not need to miss. These are certain specific points that needs your focus. So we have to read this generally because it is beyond the AA syllabus. See, a lot of students make this mistake. What they do is they try to study RSBs in detail. Okay, what are recognized supervisory body? Say ACC is also one recognized supervisory body, which has the power of supervision of the global accountancy profession. Here, do you need the expert knowledge of it? No. Do you even need the basic knowledge of it? No. It has been just told to you so that you are aware about it. Okay, it is not examinable in AA exams. Members of RSBs are recognized by statute as eligible to sign auditor's report. For example, members of ICAI, are they recognized? Yes. Members of ACCS, practicing members of ACCS, are they recognized? Yes. ACC is also a RSB. Okay, RSB means what? Recognized supervisory body. Any questions so far? Any questions so far that you would like me to answer? Any questions so far that you would like me to answer? Okay, so up to now, what we have covered, let's discuss. Up to now, what we have covered, what all things we have covered, let's discuss first. Have we covered the regulatory environment within which external audits take place? Yes. Discuss the reasons and mechanisms for regulation of auditors? Yes. Have we discussed about appointment, rights, removal, resignation? No. We have to discuss about it. Have we discussed about rights and duties? No. We have to discuss about it. Have we discussed about limitations of external audit? No. Have we discussed about development and status of ISAs? Yes. Have we discussed about ISAs and national standards? Yes. Now. Okay. Now, rights and duties of auditor. Rights and duties of auditor. This is a very important discussion. After this, we will be discussing about appointment of auditors, then removal of auditors. Then we will be having a discussion about limitations of external audit, and then status of ISS and national standards, and then some part of ISQM ISA 220. Okay, ISQM or anything related to quality management in detail we will be discussing in the next class. Okay, now rights and duties of auditors. So this discussion is divided into two parts: rights and duties. Rights and duties. Anybody who would like to answer that what are certain rights and duties of auditor according to you? What are certain rights and duties of auditor according to you? Anybody who would like to answer this? What are certain rights and duties that you would like that we should cover? Certain rights and duties that we should cover. What do you think? Certain rights and duties that are of auditors. Okay, so one duty could be that they have to perform the audit to the best of their capabilities. That could be one duty. Okay, let us try to write the answers. So one duty could be, let us try to write the answers. Okay, so one duty, one duty could be that they have to perform audit to the best of their capabilities. Perform audit to the best of their capabilities. To the best of their capabilities. To the best of their capabilities. Okay. Another duty could be that they need to submit the report on time. Submit the report on time. Submit the report on time. Third duty, so I'm trying to think like a student. Okay, here. Third duty could be that what they need to do is they have to follow all these standards. Yes, follow all these standards. Follow all these standards, right? That could be one. Okay. Let's talk about certain rights over here. Let's talk about certain rights over. Duties to give opinion. Okay. To give opinion. To give opinion. In what? In report. In auditor's report. To give opinion in what? Auditor's report. To give opinion in what? Auditor's report. Now, what could be certain rights? What could be certain rights here? What could be certain rights here? What could be certain rights of the auditor? Demand food. Demand food. Can that be a right? Demand food and stay facilities. Demand food and accommodation. Demand food. That could be a real answer. Okay, don't laugh here. That could be a real answer, and I have seen students answering this thing sometimes. Okay, yes. So demand food and accommodation. Okay, what could be another right of auditor? Anybody who would like to answer this? Anybody who would like to answer this? Demand food and accommodation. What else? What else could be there? What else could be there? That auditor could ask. Yes. What else could be there? Tell me. Rights. In Hindi we call it as adhikar, right? Tell me. Right to accounting records, that he can carry out audit effectively. Okay. Right to access accounting records. Right to access accounting records. I'm really happy that you guys are not giving any funny answers over here. Right to access accounting records. Okay. We'll be having a lot of fun discussion, but not at the chapters where we are developing the foundation. Once we have developed the foundation appropriately, then we can have a lot of fun in the class. Okay. Yes. Although I hope you are enjoying the class right now also, right? Okay. Now, right to access accounting records. Right to access accounting records could be one. So let's study it officially now. Rights and duties of auditors. First of all, let's discuss about certain rights. So to have access to accounting records and supporting documents. When I say access to accounting records and supporting documents, what you have to do is, or what is your right over here, that you can access, that is, you can view all the accounting records. You can keep it with you also if required in the given jurisdiction that is allowed by standards. So what you should do is, you should be able to access the accounting records and supporting documents also. For example, they have given you the FAR. What is FAR? Fixed asset register. They have given you that. Okay. Now there are certain additions that have been identified, and what you need to do is, you need to test the documents. For example, there's an addition. Okay. What has happened is, there's an addition. There's an addition of rupees 1 crore. Addition as a new asset purchase of 1 crore. And they are denying to give you any supporting documents for it. Will you accept it? No. There might be questions that whether addition has actually been done or not. even if it is done, whether the amount should be 1 crore or not, right? All of these things needs to be checked. So that is why you need access to accounting records. But do not forget to write that there are supporting documents also, that you need access to supporting documents also. Okay, understood this point? Will you remember this, that you need access to supporting documents also? Okay, now to require information, to have access is different. Okay, do you need to remember this thing word by word? Yes, access is very important here. Okay, so what is the main word here? Access. Okay, you cannot inspect, you cannot copy, there's no such word that is mentioned. Access. Okay, now to require information from management considered necessary. Okay, that is whatever information you consider necessary, what you have to do is you can ask for it from the management. Now management could be what? Management could be the senior officials or anybody who is dealing with you. Okay, management could be any of the senior official who is responsible with the audit of, or the responsibility of audit of financial statements is given to them. Okay, so to require information from management, which whatever is considered necessary. Now to have unrestricted, here what is the keyword? Require. But here to have unrestricted access to persons within the entity. What is the difference between this point and first point? There is unrestricted access first of all, and then to persons. In first case, what we were trying to gain the access to, the accounting records, right? But here, and supporting documents, but here what we are trying to do is we are trying to gain the access to the persons within the entity. But do we require it? Yes, because everything cannot be explained by documents. For example, you need to learn about the say payroll process. Okay, now there could be SOP, standard operating procedure, that could be given to you, but you want to discuss certain questions, you have certain risk assessment and you need to discuss the questions. Now when you want to discuss these questions, or whenever you want to inquire, whom you should go to? You should go to the appropriate person. And what if they deny the access? Then you will not be able to conduct your audit. And that is why this requirement is very, very important, to have unrestricted access to persons within the entity. I hope this is clear. Yes. Now to receive what? To receive notice of, attend, to receive notice of, attend and be heard at the general meeting of the company on business which concerns them as auditor. That is, if you are an auditor, you should receive notice of all general meetings conducted by the company, notice of all general meetings that are conducted by the company. Okay, attend, you have the right to attend. Do you have the obligation to attend? It is not mentioned. Right. Okay, attend and be heard at the general meeting. But can you speak on any topic? For example, they are discussing about say sustainable energy and it does not concern you as an auditor. They have not mentioned anything about the audit report, no discussion is going for the audit, and you have woke up and what you have done is you have stood up and what you have done is you have started speaking. Is it allowed? No. Is it your right? No. Okay. So what you need to understand here is that you have the right to receive notice, attend and be heard. But be heard for what? For all meetings that concerns the auditors, Understood? So if they were discussing about the audit report and you want to speak something, then can you take the mic and speak? Yes, you can take the mic and speak. Okay, I hope this is clear. So what are the rights? Let me brush this off and let me try to write here what are the rights. So access to information, then require information. When I say information, in the first point I mean the accounting information. Number 3, access to people within the organization, and number 4 is meeting related, AGM related, right? Okay, will you be able to remember this? Yes, you need to remember this word by word. Okay, when I say word by word, I do not mean to have or something, but the keywords, the access or anything. Okay, now duties as auditors. Okay, so primary, see there are secondary duties also, but the primary duty is what? The one that Swapna has answered in the chat box, that primary duty is what? Primary duty is to report to the company's shareholders. Why the shareholders? Because we have discussed it in chapter number 1 that shareholders are the actual owners of the company. Okay, Primary duty is to what? Is to report to the company's shareholders on the financial statements. What is the meaning of financial statement? We have discussed in lecture number 1. Prepared to an accounting reference period. This is usually 1 year, but could be less or more also in certain specific cases. Now, to keep proper records. Now, what are these proper records? So this is something where professional judgment of auditor needs to be applied, that what do we mean by proper records. But what we need to do is we need to keep certain records with us. These records could be in the form of evidences collected. These records could be in the form of what? These records could be in the form of working papers. So example, evidences collected, working papers, etc. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, to report, to do what? To report on whether auditor has received all necessary info. Info here means information. Whether auditor has received all the information or not. If auditor has not received all the information, then they need to mention it in the report, and there are certain qualification requirements, there are certain disclaimer requirements that could be there, but we have to learn it in the completion stage of the audit. Okay, now let's move further. And let's move further to this point, where to report on whether director's report is consistent with the information contained in FS. Is it relevant for us? Yes, it is given by ISS 720, which is named as other information. There you need to read the director's report and in fact other non-financial information in the form of annual report, and you need to see if there is any material inconsistency. So this is one duty. Do you need to remember this right now? No. When you will be studying the audit subject in detail, we will be discussing at a lot of points that what are the auditor's responsibilities and duties, or what are the auditor's rights, and you will definitely by default learn it. Okay, so not an issue, not to put any extra efforts as of now here. Okay, so to keep what? Proper. To keep proper records. Okay, to report on what? Auditor has received all necessary information or not, and to report on director's report. Okay, understood? Any questions so far? Any question that needs to be discussed over here? I hope everything is clear. Anything that needs to be discussed over here? Yes, any question? Okay, so I hope there are no questions. Just in case if there are any questions, please feel free to shoot in the comment box. Now, appointment of auditors. Who can appoint the auditors? Anybody could appoint the auditors. No, that could not be there. There are certain roles and responsibilities that needs to be taken care of. Who are the owners of the company? Shareholders are the owners of the company. So who will get the right to appoint the auditors? Shareholders only. Okay. So for example, as of now standing at my office. Okay. Now in this office, if I want to appoint any employee, who would be able to appoint it? I would be able to appoint it based on the current SOPs. Why? Because I am the owner of the company, correct? If there would be certain other partner who has been entrusted with this responsibility, see the HR partner or anything, then they would be able to hire. So that is why it is very, very important to understand that whosoever is the owner, they will be able to appoint. Okay. So appointment of auditors. The shareholders are ultimately responsible for the appointment of the external auditor. The shareholders are ultimately responsible for the appointment of the external auditor. That is the key line. That is why I have written it in what? In green, in red color, and I will star mark it also. Okay. Wherever we have given the green points, these are the important pointers that you need to learn as part of your process. Okay. Now, the process may being the major word here. Okay. May be delegated, maybe if required, okay, may be delegated to directors and then approved by the shareholders. See, what happens is, if shareholders will go to appoint the auditor, they'll meet generally once only, right, at the AGM, and then only they will be doing the whole discussion, plus there may be thousands or lakhs or crores of people also in some cases, then the discussion will not reach a conclusion. So what they generally do is they entrust the directors with this responsibility, that what you do, you give us certain options or you finalize one and we will approve it. Okay, can we reject in the AGM? Yes. So generally what happens is they can keep one or two options maybe, or they can say that we recommend these people because they are really good. Okay, but a lot of times what happens is that that audit committee is also involved over here. Audit committee, in certain cases when audit committee is relevant, then audit committee is involved over here. We will be discussing it in chapter number 4, 5, 3, where we would be discussing about corporate governance and other pointers. Okay. Now, Typically appointment is for 1 year, because in next year in every AGM they need to be reappointed. They need to be what? Reappointed. And we will again have a discussion on this when we will be discussing about resignation, because if auditor does not want to continue in the next year, what they can do is they can just say no to standing in the AGM for the purpose of appointment. They can say no, that I don't want to stand for the purpose of appointment, right? Now typically appointment is for 1 year. Reappointment is done at the AGM. By whom? By whom? By shareholders, because these are the owners. Owners have the power. Okay. Now remuneration of auditor, very important. No, money. So remuneration is negotiated by, generally by the person who is hiring, maybe the shareholders, maybe the directors, and sometimes the audit committee also. So remuneration is negotiated, the word is negotiated, either by directors or audit committee wherever applicable. Okay. Can shareholders also negotiate it? Yes, they can say that, you know, these are good auditors, but the remuneration that you are suggesting is very high, so we need to change it, and then again the negotiations will go on. Then audit appointment process is discussed in DL in chapter number 5, okay, where we will be discussing about obtaining professional assignments and all. We will be discussing about it in detail. Any questions so far related to appointment of auditors? Any questions? See, whenever we will be having a discussion about it, be it on YouTube live or be it on the app or be it on any other modes, I would request you that whatever questions you have in case of audit, you have to discuss it then and there, okay? Because what happens is, in case of audit, there are 2-3 difficulties that students generally face, okay? Generally 2-3 difficulties that students face, that either they are unable to discuss, unable to understand and discuss. That is, they have been unable to understand something and they were unable to discuss it also. So that creates a little friction. Then second point is that they do not solve questions. They do not solve questions. Okay, even if a full question bank is provided, they do not solve questions. And third thing is that they do not revise, because what happens is, in case of audit, if you don't revise, then it becomes a little trouble for you. Okay, so will we be doing this? No. Why? Because what procedure we are going to follow is that whenever I explain anything, once I complete the topic, you can ask any questions related to that topic. And by topic, I do not mean that when I complete the entire chapter. You can ask after I have closed one topic, one subtopic of the chapter. Solving questions. So today also we will be solving certain questions which would be divided into concept based questions as well as one case study question also. Then revise, that is, we will be doing the cumulative revisions. Why it is important? So that you can get to know about that how one chapter which we have studied in say 2 hours in the regular classes, how it can be summarized into 30 minutes also. Okay, so that you can feel free to understand and grasp this thing, that you will be able to revise it before the exam also. Okay, now removal of auditors. Can auditors be removed as in termination? We are talking about termination here. Can auditors be removed? Terminated? Yes, we are talking about termination here. Can auditors be removed from their position? Yes, there could be certain cases, no, when auditor could be terminated also. Okay, maybe they have not complied with the process, maybe we are not happy as management with the auditors, but there's the catch. The catch is that they should not be removed just on the whim of the directors. That is, just directors wants to remove them because they have suggested a qualification, or because there has been a disagreement, or there has been certain discussions which is not in favor of management, and then they have decided that we need to change the auditors. Can they do so? No, they should not do so. Only shareholders can remove the auditor from office as they appoint the auditors. Who are the owners of the company? The shareholders are the owners of the company. So who would be removing the auditors? Shareholders. Who has appointed them? Shareholders. So who will remove them? Shareholders. Okay, we need to learn it, we need to remember it. Okay, now resignation. When I say resignation, what do I mean by resignation? Now we are talking about that resignation is by auditors. That is, auditors have themselves removed themselves from the audit. Okay, so we are talking about resignation. First fundamental difference that you should learn about is that removal means termination, that management, shareholders, directors, they have removed the auditors. But when I say resignation is by the auditors, driven by the auditor. Okay, so resignation could be at the point of re-election, that is on the next year. Auditor can simply say that I do not want to stand for the election, I do not want to be reappointed, so simply does not stand for re-election. But when there is a resignation during the engagement, now that creates certain trouble. What is the trouble? imagine a situation that the year end is say 31st March. Okay, year end. Current date is 1st January. Okay, we have performed a lot of audit procedures, and what has happened is that after performing all the audit procedure, we realized that we are not in a position to issue the opinion, so we decided that we will be resigning. So we gave the resignation letter on say 31st of January. Now it's only 2 months till the time the year end would be closing, and now you are changing the auditors. Now there would be another general meeting on 30th September only. Okay, now tell me, don't you think this will create a lot of trouble for the company, because now they need to change the auditors, they need to take the approval of the shareholders, plus there is year ending also. So that is why it has serious implications also. Okay, so what are the implications? Must being the major word here. Okay, not may, not required, must give the client written notice. Again, written notice, not just the notice, written notice. You have to write it as in not handwritten it. Okay, you can give it on email also. Okay, of his resignation, which is also sent to the appropriate regulatory and audit authorities. Can it be sent to certain regulatory bodies? Say in case of certain directors, in case of certain jurisdictions, there are certain directors that are being created, certain offices that are being created, certain government offices that are being created, certain regulatory bodies that are being created. Say in case of ACCA, if anybody wants to resign from their position as an auditor, as an ACCA, they might be required to send a written notice to what? To the ACCA body also, that we want to resign from this audit in the middle of the audit. That is what it makes this point very, very important. Okay, also sent to appropriate regulatory authorities, appropriate regulatory and audit authorities. In India, if you resign from any audit during continuance of the audit, then you might be required to give a letter to the ICAI also. Okay, I hope this is clear. Please let me know in the chat box if this is clear. Yes. Okay, now the auditor must also consider his professional duty to complete the engagement, because in this case, imagine a situation that what you are doing is you are resigning on 31st of January. So you should consider your professional obligation to conduct what? In good faith, what you should do is you should conduct the current year's audit and then resign from next year's audit, right? And the legal consequences of resignation, sometimes it could have legal consequences also. So you might be required to take legal advice also, that in this case, if I resign from the audit, what would be the implication? Can any legal cases be filed against me as a professional or as an individual? If yes, you need to consider that also. So again, remember this line, and this line is also very, very important, that the auditor must also consider what? Consider his professional duty to complete the engagement and the ethical and legal consequences of resignation. Seek ethical and legal advice wherever required. Whom you can take this legal advice from? You can take this advice from the ACCA body, maybe the regulatory bodies. You can take from lawyers and anybody else who can be considered as the relevant person. Okay, can director also remove the auditor? No, director cannot remove the auditor. Do they need to pass any resolution for at the board? So see, first of all, directors cannot remove. See here, we have specifically written it that it should not be removed just on the whim of the directors. So directors can recommend that we remove the auditor, but directors themselves as directors cannot remove it. You need the ratification of, you need the approval of the shareholders to remove the auditor. And in a lot of cases, when there is audit committee, the approval of audit committee is required, or the recommendation should be driven by audit committee only. Understood this point? Yes. Understood this point? Yes. I hope this is clear. Yes, I hope this is clear. Okay. Now, why an auditor might resign? This is little important to understand, right? Not from the purpose of just examination, but from the purpose of a general understanding. Okay, why an auditor might resign? There could be significant limitations placed on work. That is, management might be telling them that you cannot do this, you cannot demand this, and auditor got fed up, and auditor said that, you know, in my professional experience or in my professional judgment, I think that you are required to give us following information. If you are not able to give it, there are scope limitations. Scope limitations is what? It is a technical term. We will be discussing it later on at the relevant places. Okay, but in our case, there is a scope limitation, that is, you are not allowing us to work as per the relevant standards, and that is why we are resigning. Loss of trust could be there, that is, auditor has found that whatever information or whatever explanation is given by management and the relevant personnel, that cannot be trusted. So what's the point of doing the audit? Because a lot of procedure requires you to inquire. then regulatory requirements could be there. For example, there's an investigation going on the auditor or the client, and in that particular case there's a law which says that you cannot perform the audit, then also you will have to remove yourself from the auditor or resign from the audit. Okay, understood this point? Now, role of audit committee must also be, role of audit committee must also be evaluated for resignation wherever required, which is discussed in detail in chapter number 3. What is chapter number 3? Corporate governance. We will be discussing about roles of audit committees. It is a very, very important chapter for you. Okay, now we have come to the next topic, which is limitation of external audit. Limitations of external audits. We have come to the next topic, which is limitations of external audit. These are generally inherent limitations. What are inherent? Which are pre-existing generally, right? Inherent, pre-existing, and it has been there since forever. Okay, inherent limitations. What could be certain inherent limitations? Let me explain certain thing to you. Okay, tell me one thing. The nature of financial reporting framework, FR, if I'm talking as of now, don't you think it is getting very complex with the introduction of, say, digital currency, with the introduction of so many new and technical products, with a lot of complexity in the financial industry? Don't you think the accounting and auditing industry is getting a little more tricky these days? What do you think? Don't you think that it is getting a little more tricky these days? What do you think? Don't you think it is getting a little more tricky these days? Yes? Yes. Okay, tell me one thing. You are the auditor. There are 10,000 transactions done by the company every day. Okay, every day I'm talking about. Imagine the year. Okay, say at the year you have discussed that there are 30 crore transactions, maybe considering holidays and everything. There have been 30 crores transactions. Okay, will you be able to verify these 30 crores transactions? No, you may be verifying maybe for each thing you have your professional judgment working on, but maybe you might be verifying, say, 1,000 samples out of these 30 crores. The point is very the percentage is very negligible. But will you be able to form your report? Yes. Will you be able to form your report? Yes, we will be able to form our report. But don't you think there's a risk that whatever samples you have verified, the conclusion that you have derived via verification of sample and the conclusion that you would have derived by verification of the overall population might be different? Don't you think so? There might be that risk. Yes, there is that risk, right? So that is why it becomes really, really important for us to understand that this is a very, very big risk, and this gives rise to limitations of external audit, which are inherent limitations. Number 1 is the nature of financial reporting. Number 2, the nature of audit procedures, and number 3, timeliness and cost versus benefit. How will you define the nature of financial reporting? So because of involvements of judgments, decisions, assessments, and a degree of uncertainty, because of the complexity, the newer standards, there is always an element of uncertainty. There's always an element of judgments that is required via management, via auditor, and that is why there could be certain items which might not be identified by the auditor. Okay, that is important. Number 2 is the nature of audit procedure. Do you need to remember these points? Yes, you need to remember the nature of financial reporting, that you need to remember. You need to remember the nature of audit procedure, and you need to remember the timeliness and cost benefit. But under that, you do not need cost versus benefit, but you do not need to learn the exact points which are written inside this. You can write them in your own words, but you should ideally remember these 3 points. Okay, now, may not be provided with all information. That could be one. The nature of audit procedures are there that auditor may not be provided with all information. Say they have been provided with the fixed asset register, but they have not been provided with more information that is available. There is a separate register which has the condition, ability, everything, and if that would have been provided, there could be a different opinion, but that has not been provided. So now it totally resides in the judgment of the auditor. Audit is not an investigation because we do not have the statutory powers to conduct the investigation. For example, if certain document is submitted to us, we have to believe, unless there is a reason to believe so that it is not authentic, we have to believe that it is authentic. If there is a reason to believe via previous conduct or anything that this document is not authentic, then only you can question it, but otherwise you have to trust it. Fraud may be more difficult to detect with audit procedures if concealed. That is, if fraud is concealed. Okay, fraud is generally intentional, no? And if it is done via, say, collusion of people, collusion of employees, now don't you think it becomes a little difficult, it becomes a little more tricky to identify these frauds, because audit procedures are on a sample basis. Audit procedures are on the inquiry basis. Now imagine that what you are doing is you are doing the inquiry to the exact person who has committed the fraud. Will they ever tell you that they have committed the fraud? No, right? So this becomes a little more tricky here. Now, most audit evidences are persuasive rather than conclusive. Most audit evidences are persuasive rather than conclusive. What we have discussed is, we have discussed this in orientation session. What are persuasive audit evidences? Which tells us that this might be true. What this evidence is saying, this might be true. These are persuasive. What are conclusive? Only this is true. Only this is true. So in case of audit, whatever evidence we get, for example, the samples, the invoices, or anything, those are generally persuasive in nature, not conclusive, and that makes audit a little more tricky, a little more risky, and gives rise to the inherent limitation. Now, test check. Like we have discussed, that out of 30 crores transaction, what we have done is we have only verified say 1000 transactions. So this is test check. The sample, there is a sampling risk. That is, what you have done is the conclusion that you have derived by verifying the samples and the conclusion that you might have derived by verifying the overall population might be different. So that gives rise to inherent limitation. And finally, there is timeliness and cost versus benefit. That is, there could be very less time to perform the audit in a given scenario, and the benefit of conducting an audit might not be appropriate for the cost that is involved in conducting the audit. So these three are the major limitations of external audits. These are also called as inherent limitations of audit. If there is a question tomorrow by the name of inherent limitations of audit, this is something that you are supposed to write. The nature of financial reporting, the nature of audit procedures, and finally the timeliness and cost versus benefit. I hope this is understood. I hope this is understood. Now, status of ISS and national standard setters. I think we have by default ticked it over here, but we are going to cover it right now. Okay, I think we have, by mistake, we have ticked it over here in the objectives, but now we are going to cover it. Okay. Okay. Now, status of ISS and national standard setters. National standard setters could be, for example, in India we use standards on auditing. There is a separate standard setting body that issues SS and that issues ISS, right? So for example here could be SS. SA does not mean Supreet Agrawal over here. SA means standards on auditing in India. These are not called as ISS, these are called as just SS. Okay, let me write it clearly so that we do not get confused later on. Example, SS in India. Okay, understood? Now, many standard setters, what I've done is I have evaluated all the reference materials, I have evaluated the ACC study hub, and I have evaluated all other portals, and what I've done is I have figured out those definitions. I have also gone through examiner comments and all, and what I've done is I have figured out all those definitions, all those words that gives you marks in the examination as well as gives you the knowledge as well, and I have created a blend of it over here in the form of what? In the form of the handwritten summary notes. My friends, what you need to protect yourself against, let me tell you one thing. Okay, let me tell you one thing. When we were discussing about rights and obligations, see, these are the answers that we were discussing, right? Please, I will write it here, please. Okay, I am not good at drawing, otherwise what I would have done is I would have created like this. Okay, please do not write generalized answers. Please do not write generalized answers. That is always the first comment or the most important comment that is given in case of examiner comments, that students are writing the generalized points. Okay, you do not need to write the generalized points. Wherever there are standard setting bodies, wherever there are regulatory framework, they have explained you a lot of things. They have given a lot of explanations of certain points, and what you need to do is you need to write that all only. You cannot write your own answers here. Okay, but do you need to copy the exact language? No. But do you need to write the keywords? Yes. Okay, so we will practice a lot so that we can avoid these generalized answers. Okay. Okay, now so many standard setters are moving towards the adoption of ISS. A lot of countries will see are now using ISS. National standards may continue but align with the principles of ISS. For example, in India you will see that there are essays running as of now, but they are majorly being aligned with the requirements of ISS only. Okay, ISA could be adopted with additional specific guidance added. That is, in certain cases where ISA cannot be made applicable as it is, what they can do is they can apply the ISS and they can give certain other guidance. That in case of say India, what you need to follow is, other than ISS or besides ISS, that is in addition to ISS, you also need to follow these things, these guidances. Okay, that could be done. Okay, is it a very important point for the examination? No, this one is not very important. Okay, but now let's come to one of the most important points for your examination from this chapter, which is ISA 220. It has been revised in 2020 only. Okay, now quality management for an audit of financial statement. What is the title? ISA 220 is there. Okay, as of now we have discussed about ISA 200, overall objectives of an independent audit and conduct of an audit in accordance with the international standards on auditing. But here ISA 220 is there, which is quality management for an audit of financial statements. Okay, now ISQM 1 which deals with ISQM 1 which deals with quality management at firm level is not examinable in AA. Is it examinable in AAA? Yes. But what is this ISQM, by the way? ISQM is international standard on quality management. International standard on quality management is that, which deals with the quality management at the firm level is not examinable. Not examinable. Okay, please do not consider it as examinable. A lot of students comes to me and ask me that, so we have not studied ISQM 1, is it going to be examinable in AA? No. Plus we are going to upload a specific video on our YouTube channel where we will be discussing about what is examinable in AA, what is examinable in AAA. Okay, before we move further, I would like to tell you that how you can find us on YouTube or any other platforms. Okay, so let me put a blank page over here. See, if you want to connect with me on YouTube, okay, you can connect with me on my channel, which is ACCA with CA Supreet Agrawal. Okay, if you want to connect with me on Instagram, I am available with the same name. If you want to connect with me on Telegram, then I have a channel by the name of ACCA with CA Supreet Agrawal. Okay, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, you have to search by the name of CA Supreet. Okay, let us save the PDF first. Yes, CA Supreet Agrawal. What I have done is I have created this PDF in the autosave mode. So whatever I write, generally in every few seconds or every few minutes, it gets autosaved so that we do not miss out on any of the important comments. Okay, if you want to buy these lectures, where you can access, you can either call us on the number given in the description box, or what you can do is you can come to our website, which is www.bbvirtualsglobal.com. okay, or also you can call on the number which is given in, call or text, okay, given in description. I hope this is clear. Okay, just in case if it is required, you can also text my team at 971-395-1099. But here please do not call, just text. Okay, and our team will get in touch with you. Now quality must be managed at the engagement level. Now when I say engagement level, what do I mean by it? Quality must be managed at the engagement level. Okay, quality must be managed at the engagement level to have reasonable assurance that the audit has been conducted in compliance. I think there's some issue going on with the scrolling. No worries, we are just on the last page, so we can ignore it. The audit has been conducted in compliance with professional standards and legal or regulatory requirements, and the audit report issued is appropriate in the circumstances. That is, we need to have particular understanding on every engagement as in every audit or assignment, in general words, assignment. Okay, to have reasonable assurance as in what we have discussed it over the first lecture, high but not absolute. That is not 100% but very high, maybe 90% or more. The audit has been conducted in compliance with the professional standards. Professional standards generally means what? Generally means ISAs and ethical requirements. Okay, and legal or regulatory requirements. So whatever are the legal and regulatory requirements of the particular jurisdiction, you have followed it, and the audit report issued is appropriate in the circumstances. When I say appropriate, what do I mean? Driven by standards. Okay, so conclusion is as per the standard. Conclusion is driven by professional judgment and standards. Professional judgment and standards. I hope this is clear. I hope this is clear. So I'm sure that this must be clear to you. Now the important point here is, what I'll do is I'll try reopening this file once. Okay, I think it has not been saved. Okay, I'll try reopening the file once. Okay, yes, now it's sorted. Okay, so now what we have studied up to here. Now we are going for the last page. Okay, but the chapter is not completed yet. There are two objectives that we will be discussing in the next class. Okay, that is nothing but the extension of whatever we are going to discuss now. In last few minutes, whatever we are going to discuss, the next few topics are going to be an extension of this. So the engagement partner is responsible for the following components of quality management. The engagement partner is going to be responsible for the following components. So whenever we ask who is responsible, engagement partner. Responsible party is engagement partner. Okay, but this is not the responsible party in the case of assurance engagement. This is the responsible person. I won't say party here, otherwise this might create confusion. Responsible person. Okay, responsible person. Now if anybody asks you components, so what you have to do is, for components refer this page. For components of quality management, refer this page. Okay, this is important, because what happens is sometimes when I teach, students forget that these are the components of the quality management, and they say that sir, you didn't teach us the components, but these are the components, my friends. Okay, now leadership. First thing is leadership. Second one is relevant ethical requirements. Third one is acceptance and continuance. Fourth one is engagement resources. Fifth one is engagement performance, and sixth one is monitoring and remediation. Do you need to remember these points? Yes. Do you need to remember the contents of these points? That we will be discussing in the next class. However, do you need to remember these points? Yes. But how we will remember it? These are so many points. Right? So what you need to do is, you need to remember this via an acronym. Okay, but for that acronym I'll make certain changes. For example, here with engagement I'll also add human, because we are generally familiar with the word human resources. We will generally delete this ethical requirements. Ethical, we will just say E. Okay, so repeat after me. H E A L M E. Okay, what is the word HEALME? What is the word? What is the word or the phrase? Can you tell me on the chat box? What is the word of the phrase HEALME? HEALME. Let me write it over here. What is the acronym? HEALME. By the way, you know, I got to know yesterday that there's something called as initialism. Okay, so if it makes a real word, then only it would be called as what? The acronym. For example, NASA, NASA. Then only if it could be spelled as a word, if it could be spoken as a word, then only it is known as acronym. Otherwise, it is known as initialism. Okay, so let me know if this is true. This was a new information for me. Heal me. Okay, this is what? Heal me. Okay, let us do something. Let us write it with the relevant pauses, with the relevant spaces. Heal me with what? Heal me with quality. That is the sentence. Heal me with quality, because it's not just important for us to learn acronyms. What is more important for us to learn is that how those acronyms are related with the technical education. For example, heal me, what does it mean? Nothing. Heal me means nothing, right? In case of audit. However, if you have to remember that this word is for quality management, what you need to do is, you need to say that heal me with quality, so that whenever there's a discussion of quality management that is going on, you can come to what? You can come to the heal me portion. Whenever there's a discussion going on for the quality, you can come to the heal me. So repeat after me. Heal me with quality. What do we mean by it? That whenever there would be a discussion on quality management, we will come to this acronym or initialism, which is called as heal me. Okay, here H means what? H means what? H means human resources, but we have given this word human for the purpose of understanding. Otherwise, this word is engagement resources. Other than human, this word is engagement resources. Then E is what? Engagement performance. Do you need to follow this? No, you need to follow the uh, sequence if possible. You need to follow the sequence if possible. A means what? Okay. H means what? Human resources. But in place of human, H means what? Human resources. But in place of humans, what we need to say is, we need to say engagement resources. E is what? Engagement performance. Okay. A means what? Acceptance and continuance. Acceptance and continuance. Acceptance and continuance. Okay. L means what? Leadership. Okay. M means what? Monitoring. M means what? Monitoring. And E means what? Okay, I think there's been a trouble. No worries. Okay, it went away. It went away only. No worries. Let us write it again. HEALME with quality. That's the best thing about having what? Having a simple acronym or initialism. H means what? Human or engagement. What word we will choose? Engagement resources. Okay. E means what? Engagement performance. Okay. A means what? Acceptance and continuance. L means what? Leadership. Okay. M means what? Monitoring. And E means what? E means the ethical requirements, the relevant ethical requirements. I hope this is clear. I'll tell you in basic form what is it. Otherwise, we will be having a good discussion about it in the next class, where we will be fulfilling the 3 objectives related to quality management. So leadership means what? Takes overall responsibility. Quality management takes the overall responsibility. That is, ethical engagement partner needs to take the overall responsibility as the leadership of the engagement. Relevant ethical requirement needs to be fulfilled. Acceptance and continuance procedures should be done as per the relevant procedures. Engagement resources should be used appropriately, whether the engagement resources have been used appropriately or not. Engagement performance, whether there is a proper system of DSR. When I say DSR, what do I mean? The design, supervision and review has been done or not, relevant consultations have been taken and documented or not, and EQ, engagement quality review, has been done or not. But are we studying it now? No. We will be studying it in our next class, which is lecture number 3, which will also be available on YouTube on Friday at 8 p.m. Okay. Now, which YouTube it would be available in? It would be available on the same channel. Okay. Same channel as in ACCA with Vishal Jain. Okay. Now, monitoring and remediation. Monitoring and remediation. When I say monitoring and remediation, that is the overall process is working appropriately or not, and are we allowed towards situation that might result into an issue related to quality management. Okay. So are we able to respond appropriately or not? So this is something that we have covered today. Now, have we covered this? Describe the regulatory environment within which external audits take place? Yes. Have we covered discuss the reasons and mechanisms for the regulations of the auditors? Yes. Have we covered explain the regulatory requirements or statutory regulations governing the appointment, rights, removal and resignation? Have we covered appointment? Yes. Have we covered rights? Yes. Have we covered removal? Yes. Have we covered resignation? Yes. So we have covered 4. Explain the regulations governing the rights and duties of auditor. Have we discussed the rights? Yes. Have we discussed the duties? Yes. Then describe the limitations of external audit. Did we discuss the limitations of external audit? Yes. Did we discuss about explain the development and status of ISS? Yes. Have we discussed about explain the relationship between ISS and national standards? Yes. Now, what are we leaving for the next lecture? Let me tell you. Explain the overall objectives and importance of quality management procedures in conducting the audit. This is that heal me. This is that heal me that we discussed about today. No, heal me. This is that. Okay, and heal me. Okay. And this would be the discussion there. Quality management procedure which should be in place over engagement resources. Engagement resources. This would be what? The human resources. H. Engagement performance. This is E. Acceptance is not mentioned over here, but M is monitoring is mentioned over there. Okay, and compliance with ethical requirements is over here. So that is just the extension of what we have discussed today. Okay. What type of legal consequences of resignation? I'll just tell you after reading the last objective. Okay, evaluate quality management deficiencies and provide recommendations to allow compliance with quality management requirements. That is, if there are any deficiencies, how you need to comply with it, how you need to recommend it, how you need to improve it, and then the relevant procedure we will be discussing in the next class. Now the question: what type of legal consequences of resignation you discussed? So the legal consequences of resignation could be that there might be a case on the auditor, there might be a case on the particular auditor or the engagement firm also. So we need to see that whenever we are discussing about the legal complications or legal issues that might be related with the resignation of an auditor, we need to see that if we are leaving the engagement in between during performance of the audit, if we are leaving, then whether the client could have certain legal actions pending against us, and if yes, then we have to take the legal advice or the regulatory advice also. This legal advice could be taken from the regulatory bodies or the relevant lawyers also. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Yes. Okay, so with this we have completed chapter number 2. We have completed chapter number 2, but which portion? We have completed only that portion that was required to be completed today. Now we are left with 3 objectives that we would be covering in the next session. Okay, however, what we are going to today now? What we are going to do today now? What we are going to do today? So what we are going to do is, do not leave the session. What we are going to do is, we are going to solve certain questions today. Okay, so let me open that particular file, okay, where we are going to solve the questions. Okay, where we need to solve the questions. Okay, so I hope this file is visible to all of you. I hope this file is visible to all of you. We have approximately 25 to 30 minutes available with us. Is that sufficient? Yes, because what we are going to do is, we are going to solve certain questions which are divided in the form of concept questions as well as the ACCA study hub questions. Okay, so today majorly we are going to solve it for chapter number 1. Okay, now let's get back. Okay, so let's go for certain concept questions related to chapter number 1. But what I'll need is, I'll need your responses over this. Okay, I'll need your responses over this. Okay, so please communicate with me on the chat box when we solve these questions. Okay, so the fundamental purpose of an audit is to, these are concept questions. Are they taken from any ACCA study hub questions? No, these are not taken, but there are certain questions which are being taken from ACCA study hub also, and we will be covering it over here. Okay, now tell me, concept questions. The first one is, the fundamental purpose of an audit is to do what? See my friends, before solving the question, let's discuss about certain parameters that we will be using while solving the questions. Okay, tricks and techniques. Okay, let's discuss about it. What happens is, we do not just need to solve the question. What we need to do is, we need to identify and evaluate all options. Why I say identify? Because sometimes the options are not clear. What happens is that there are options which says that choose the 2. Okay, now students are choosing one, and then they are contemplating that why this question is not being solved, because you need to choose the 2 requirements. That is why I said identify and then evaluate that which options are there and why such an option is correct, why such an option is wrong. Okay, then we need to discuss about it. So identify and evaluate all options, then select options which are incorrect. Generally you should follow the knockout technique. This is called as knockout technique, and you should follow this. Okay, that is, you should do what? You should remove those options first which does not seem correct. Okay, then choose the right option. But this process will take time, no? Yes, this process will take time, but with a lot of practice that we will be doing in our classes, you will get a good grasp over the concepts. Okay, and then you will be able to do it very efficiently and very quickly. Okay, now the fundamental purpose of an audit is to do what? Is to prevent fraud within an organization? No, that is the responsibility of audit. That is the responsibility of management, to prevent fraud, right? Enhance the degree of confidence of intended users seems like the correct option, but let's read other 2. Guarantee that no errors exist in financial statement? No, because see here, prevent fraud, because of this we are rejecting the option. Here, because of guarantee, what we are rejecting, and ensure directors act honestly. So ensure, because of this we are deleting these options. The right option is enhance the degree of confidence of intended users in financial statements. Understood this point? I hope this is clear. Understood this point? I hope this is clear. You need to interact with me a lot to solve these questions. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Yes. Now, which of the following is not an element of an assurance engagement? There were 5 elements of an assurance engagement, right? Which one is not? Okay, so subject matter was there, criteria was there, 3-party relationship was there. That is why what we are doing is we are selecting option number D. Understood this point? Any question? So what we will be doing is we will be having approximately 10 to 15 concept based questions for each chapter, so that you can firmly revise the chapter and then go ahead. Okay, now third one. I think your chats are reaching out to me with a lag of 3 to 5 seconds. Please try to answer as quickly as possible. Okay, now in an external audit, who is considered the responsible party? Okay, who is the responsible party? Shareholders? No. Auditor? No. Company's management? Yes. The audit committee? No. So answer is C, the company's management. Okay? Yes. Now, which level of assurance is given in a statutory audit? Which level of assurance is given in a statutory audit? Okay, now I'll wait for the answer first. So that we are on the same page. Please answer for question number 4, then only I'll move forward. I'll not answer for question number 4, I'll move forward so that we can move together. Yes. Please answer. Okay, A. Correct. Reasonable assurance is given for statutory audit. We do not even need to read the other options here. Now, which one of the following is not part? Be very specific, okay? Otherwise, students get confused. That is why it is important to read all options so that you can identify odd one out also sometimes. For example, if somebody has misread this question as which is the part of 5 elements, then they might go for the first point only. But when they read all the options, they might evaluate and they might say that 3 options are similar, 1 option is odd one out, and we can take it and move forward. Okay, so which one of the following is not part of the 5 elements? Not part of the 5 elements of assurance. So evidence is there, subject matter is there, intended users are there. That is why independence is the right option. Correct. Now the phrase true and fair view in an audit report refers to. True and fair view in an audit report refers to. Compliance with tax regulations? No. Financial statement being free from material misstatement might be true, but let's read the other options. Every single transaction being verified? No, because of compliance with tax. Then the company's ability to continue as a going concern? No. No. That is why these three are wrong options and B option is correct. Okay. Now, which of the following best describes? So there could be more than one correct options, but best describes limited assurance. What do you say? Best describes limited assurance. High level of assurance but not absolute high? No. No assurance? No, because not agreed upon procedures. Guaranteed? No, and that is why B option is the correct one. Okay, option number 7. I hope you guys are understanding it. Yes. Now, which of the following is not an objective of an assurance engagement? So see, why there are multiple questions with the same frame? Why? Because see, we do not know what ACC body is going to ask you, and that is why we need to solve the same concept via multiple views, and that is why I am asking this question repeatedly via different views. Which of the following is not an objective? So, to enhance confidence in the subject matter, to enhance confidence, to provide an independent opinion, to prepare the subject matter for management, and to assess. So, enhance makes it correct, provide an independent opinion makes it correct, assess again suitable criteria is correct because subject matter is there, because opinion is there, because suitable criteria is there, but to prepare, and that is why this is the right option. Okay, to prepare the subject matter, because we do not prepare this subject matter, that is the financial statements. Okay. Now, a company requests its external auditors to provide payroll processing services. This is Assurance, non-assurance, limited assurance and absolute assurance. Yes, preparing subject matter is the responsibility of management. Now, a company requests its external auditor to provide payroll processing services. This is assurance service, non-assurance, limited assurance, absolute assurance. This is what do you say? This is assurance? No. Limited? No. Absolute? No. This is a non-assurance service. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, which of the following, okay, these questions are representative of the concept that we have studied in chapter number 1. I'm not talking about chapter number 2 here, chapter number 1. Which of the following types of engagement provides the highest level of assurance? Which of the following types of engagement provide highest level of assurance? Highest level. Audit, review, agreed upon, compilation. Which one is true? What do you say? Question number 10. Which one is true? What do you say? Which one is true? Which one is true? Which one is true? I think there's a little lag, but that's okay. Lag, when I say lag, there's no technical error. The lag means that once you answer, it reaches out to me after 3 to 4 seconds. Audit. Okay, great. Which of the following is an agreed upon procedure? Engagement most likely to involve agreed upon procedures. Expression of an audit opinion? No, because no opinion is issued. No opinion is issued. Negative assurance conclusion? No, because of no opinion again. A guarantee of accuracy? No. That is why a factual report of findings without assurance. Okay, now, okay, which statement describes professional skepticism? What is professional skepticism? Best describes professional skepticism. What do you say? Which statement best describes? Always suspecting fraud is present? No. Always? No. Doubting management? No. Assuming? No. An attitude of questioning mind and critical assessment of evidences. And there was one more point, which is being allowed towards situation that might result into a material misstatement, right? So this is the right answer. Okay. Now 13. Which of the following is correct about assurance engagement? Which of the following is correct about assurance engagements? Tell me. They always relate to financial information only. They can apply to both financial and non-financial. I would say this is a star question. Why? Because this might confuse you. Yes, they always relate to financial information only. They can apply to both financial and non-financial information. They are limited to statutory audits. Yeah, or they guarantee correctness of subject matter. What do you say? They always relate to financial information. They can apply to both financial and non-financial information. They are limited to statutory audits. They guarantee correctness of subject matter. What do you say? What do you say? This is an important question. Please answer. Yes. B. They can apply to both financial and non-financial information. We have discussed about it, that there could be other information also, right? That is why it is important. I am glad that you remember this. Okay. Now, which of the following terms correctly matches the assurance engagement element? Which of the following terms correctly matches? Again, important question. Yes, although these kind of questions might not directly be asked in the examination, but these questions are supposed to check your concepts. Okay, so these questions might not be directly asked in your examination, but these are supposed to check your concepts here. Yes, tell me. Is practitioner intended user? No. Is auditor the responsible party? No. Is management the responsible party? Yes. But let's read the fourth option. Is shareholder the engaging party? No. So that is why option C is the correct one. So we have solved 14 questions. 14 questions of the level of concept building. Did you understand these questions? Were you able to solve these questions? Were you able to solve these questions? Yes. Were you able to solve these questions? What do you say? What do you say? Were you able to solve these questions? Yes. If yes, we will go for the ACCA study hub questions also. We will be taking the questions from various publishers. Yes, we will be solving it, but not today. Okay. Will we be solving the descriptive type question also? Yes, but not today. Why? Why not today? Because today we are focusing more on the concept based questions and the ACCA study hub questions. Okay. I hope this was clear. Correct. Now ACCA study hub questions. ACCA study hub questions. Is it relevant? Yes, very very relevant for you. Okay, so there are multiple case studies, case study 1, case study 2, case study 3 that has been there. What we are going to do, we are going to solve case study 1 and 2 with you, and then case study 3 you can solve at your own. Okay, but here today we are going to solve only case study 1 so that we can solve certain questions of chapter number 2 also. But there are certain questions, say question number 5 of case study 1, which has not been mentioned over here. Question number 5 is not mentioned over here. Why so? Because I want you to go to the ACCA study hub, okay, log in there, solve that question number 5 and ask me if you face any trouble. Okay, please take the efforts, please go to ACCA study hub and solve that question and come to me in case you face any trouble or any doubt. Okay, so question 5 is not there. Now let's discuss this case study and let's try to figure out how we need to maintain the points. Okay, so you are a manager, you need to mention these points in a blank paper. So if you do not have the blank paper, okay, you made all the correct guesses, that's amazing. Okay, but I won't say that you have made the guesses, your answers were backed by your knowledge, and that is very very important here to understand. Okay, now you are a manager in the advisory and non-audit department, non-audit services department. You are the manager in what? Non-audit services department. You are a manager in the advisory and non-audit services department of Nadas and Company. Your clients range from sole traders, partnerships, small private companies that do not require a statutory audit, to companies requiring non-audit assurance services. That is, you do not provide the assurance services because you are the manager in advisory and non-audit services department. One of your clients, Frederick, has a retail shop which he manages with his 2 sons. Retail shop, okay. He is considering incorporating his business, that is, he is trying to convert it into an official business which is registered. He and his wife will own the shares. He and his wife will own the shares in the company, and his sons will be appointed. Sons will be appointed as directors and take over the management of daily operations. Okay. He has asked you about the purpose of an external audit and the concept of agency. Purpose of external audit and the concept of agency. The chairman of the board of directors of Lucky has identified the need to establish the integrity of management information that the board is receiving from divisional managers. He has asked you about the elements of assurance engagements and difference between the levels of assurance that Nadas and Company can provide. Okay, assurance engagements and the level of assurance. An assistant who has been assigned to help you has expressed some uncertainty over the evaluation criteria. In assurance engagements, you have given her the following as examples of evaluation criteria. What could be the criteria? OECD principles that we will be discussing in the further lectures. Money laundering could be there, IFRS, and commonly used definitions of key performance indicators could be there. Okay. Now, in line with international standards on auditing, ISAs, which two, you have to select the 2 options. Okay. Which 2 of the following are the overall objectives of conducting an audit of financial statements? Which 2 are the overall objectives of conducting an audit of financial statements? Yes, tell me the answer. I am waiting in the comments. So the four options are: to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements in order to express an opinion on them, or to report on the financial statements and communicate as required by IASs in accordance with the auditor's findings, to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statement due to fraud, or to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidences regarding the management use of the going concern basis of accounting. Okay, tell me overall objectives given by ISA 200. So option number 1 and 2 are correct. Option number 1 and 2 are correct. A and B are correct. That's amazing. This is ACCA study up question. Okay, so you were able to solve the concept question, that's fine, but now you are able to solve the ACCA study up questions also. These are more professional in nature, right? Now, which of the following statement best describes the concept of agency? We have discussed about the concept of agency. Which of the following statement describes the concept of agency? Yes, the directors will be responsible for explaining their actions. The directors will be responsible for managing the shareholders' property. The shareholders enters the directors to manage the running of the business. This is a little technical question, and I will say that you have to mark it. Okay, star mark. Yes. Tell me, the shareholders must be able to ensure that the director actions are aligned with the shareholders' objective. What do you say? The directors will be responsible for explaining. Responsible for explaining? No. Shareholders enters the directors to manage. Let's see, but option B, the directors will be responsible for managing. This is not agency. This is some concept that we have discussed, but this is not agency. Is responsible for explaining. This is not agency. What is agency? The C option. The shareholders enters the directors to manage the running of the business. That is agency. First one is what? Accountability. Second one is what? The the stewardship, right? Now, the shareholders must be able to ensure that the directors' actions are aligned with the shareholders' objective. Must be able to ensure, it should not happen. Right. Now, third option. The chairman of the board of Plucky has asked about the elements of assurance engagement. Which four of the following are included in the elements? Tell me, which four? These are 6 options that are given. Which four? I have not marked the answers over here so that you can solve it. You can actually solve it. So, sixth option is evidence. Okay, sixth option is evidence. Please tell me. Yes. Please tell me. Which four? Which four? Which four? Which four? Yes, which four? Which four? Yes, which four? A, B, D, F. And underlying subject matter. Okay. Assurance report. Commitment to competency is not there. A, B, D. Criteria is there. Okay. And F, ethical requirements is not there. Evidence is there. Correct. A, B, D, F. Correct. Okay. Because commitment to competence and ethical requirements are not required as part of the element of assurance engagements. Okay. 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 Now, which two of the following statements comparing a reasonable assurance engagement with a limited assurance engagement are true? Two statements which are related to comparing the reasonable assurance and limited assurance engagement are true. Engagement risk is greater for reasonable assurance engagement. Is it true? No, because engagement risk is greater for limited assurance engagement. Less evidence will be sought for a limited assurance engagement. Is it true? Tell me. Both reasonable assurance and limited assurance engagements require an understanding of the entity, including its control environment. True? True or false? The conclusion is expressed in a positive form for a reasonable assurance engagement and negative form for a limited assurance engagement. Is it true? What do you say? Yes, what do you say? What do you say? Please answer on the chat box. Please answer on the chat box as soon as possible. Yes, please answer on the chat box. Yes, please answer on the chat box. C. Why do you feel it's C? Why do you feel it's C? Both reasonable assurance and limited assurance engagement require an understanding of the entity and its control environment. Because in case of limited assurance, it might not be required. It might not be required. We have not discussed it. We have discussed in difference of procedures. For example, ICAI ORR is fully applicable on reasonable assurance, but only inquiry and inalienable procedures are there, right? So what you need to understand here is that option B and D are correct. Less evidence will be sought for a limited assurance engagement because we will be only taking evidence from inquiry and analytical procedures. Okay, for limited assurance. Okay, and then the conclusion expressed in a positive format for reasonable assurance engagements and negative format for limited assurance engagements. Okay, so with this we have solved D and D. Yes, so with this we have solved the first question of ACCA study hub also. We have solved the first question of ACCA study hub also. Now what you need to do, you need to solve case study 2 and case study 3, but here in this case also, case study 1 also, I have left question number 5 because what I want to see is whether you will take the efforts to go to the ACCA study hub, solve its questions and let me know on the chat box in the next class. Okay, just in case if you face any trouble, please feel free to reach out to me via any mode and discuss about it. Via any mode means what? Via any mode means any modes that we have discussed here. We discussed about certain modes, no? We discussed about certain modes, no? Okay, not here. We have discussed about those modes under, let me open that. Let me open that. Yes, we discussed about those modes over here. So you can connect with me on any mode that is given over here. Understood? Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Yes, any questions so far? Now, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to chapter number 2, ACCA question bank, chapter number 2. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to solve certain questions from chapter number 2 also. We have some time left. Let's just solve the concept questions. How many questions are there? So there are 19 questions. Out of that, let's solve at least 10 questions and then we can close the class. Okay, at least 10 questions should be solved and then we can close the class. Okay, which of the following, let's see your accuracy level over here, and I'll wait till you answer here. I'll wait till you answer over here. Okay, okay. Now, which of the following best describes the purpose of an external audit? Which of the following best describes the purpose of an external audit? Tell me. Which of the following best describes the purpose of an external audit? Best describes the purpose of an external audit. What do you say? To express an opinion, to detect and prevent all frauds, so no. To prepare, no. To ensure compliance, no. That is why option number A is there. Correct. Thank you. Thank you. Now, who appoints? Who appoints the external auditor of a company under most corporate governance frameworks? Who appoints? Who appoints? Who appoints? Who appoints? Who appoints the external auditor? Who appoints the external auditor under most cases? Recommendation could be given by anybody, but who appoints? I am waiting for your answer. Once you give the answer, then only I'll take. Yes, tell me. A. Audit committee? No. Shareholders. Okay, shareholders. That is very important because generally shareholders appoint. Audit committee only recommends that this person should be appointed, this firm should be appointed. Otherwise, the whole thing is in the hand of shareholders. That shareholders will only appoint. Okay, I hope this is clear. Okay, now which of the following is a, but we are going really good because if there is accuracy of all questions other than few questions, then it is good. Which of the following is a key principle of an external audit? Key principle. Independence, responsibility for preparing, no. Guarantee of profit growth, no. Maintenance of accounting records, no. Then independence of the auditor. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now, okay, I think question number 4 has not been mentioned over here, or there's a little numbering error. No worries, we'll correct it, not an issue. Now, let's focus on the next question. Okay, let's focus on the next question, which is, which party is responsible for the preparation of financial statement? Which party is responsible for the preparation of the financial statement? We have already discussed it multiple times. That is why I am directly answering management over here. Okay, let's go for the 6th one. Now, I'll wait for you to answer for the 6th one. Okay, I'm asking for the 6th one over here, which is mentioned. The requirement for auditors to maintain independence is mainly to. The requirement of auditors to maintain independence is mainly to reduce audit cost. No, there's no direct relation between the independence and the audit cost. Increase management efficiency. No, because independence does not increase the management efficiency. Reduce fraud. No, but enhance the credibility of the audit opinion, and that is why option number C is correct. Right? You have rightly answered it. Amazing. Already, although it's already 10, but we'll solve 2-3 more questions and then we will call it a day. Okay. Now, which of the following is not a limitation of external audit? Not a limitation. So, Swapna, will you be with me till for next 5 to 7 minutes also till we solve 3-4 more questions? Is it okay, or shall we close the class at 10 p.m? Because I've already requested for a time from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. That is why I'm asking. Can we extend it for 5 minutes? Not an issue? What do you say? Can we extend it for 5 minutes? Just to solve 3-4 more questions. Up to question number 10. That's it. Yes. What do you say? Okay. Which of the following is not a limitation of external audit? What do you say? Which of the following is not a limitation of external audit? Which of the following is not a limitation of external audit? Inherent limitation is not there. Use of sampling, it is there. Sampling. Reliance on management representation, judgmental point. Inherent limitations of internal control, yes, this is there. Reliance on management representation is there. So guaranteeing fraud detection, which it is not a inherent limitation of audit. Okay, that is why this is important. But this question needs your understanding. Okay, now the term statutory audit means. The term statutory audit means what? An audit required by law, an audit performed voluntarily by management, a review of controls only, a fraud investigation engagement. What do you say? A fraud investigation engagement. What do you say? What do you say? Question number 8. What do you say? Question number 8. Question number 8. What do you say? What do you say? Yes, what do you say? What do you say? Yes. An audit required by law. An audit performed voluntarily by management? No. A review of controls only? No. A fraud investigation? No. So option A is correct. Okay. Yes, rightly answered. Now, which body typically sets auditing standards for external audits? Which body does that? The International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board that we have discussed. Because there's no chance management does it, there's no chance clients board of directors does it, there's no chance audit committee does it. Only IAASB has the right over it that we have studied in our syllabus. Last question for today. Which of the following is the primary objective of an external audit? Primary objective. To prepare tax returns? Definitely not. To improve operational efficiency? No. To detect all frauds? No. To provide an opinion on financial statements. Now, when we will be discussing about frauds, we will go to the relevant standards and then we will be discussing about frauds in very much detail, but not as of now. Okay, so with this, we have solved the questions also. But now, my friends, I need to discuss something really important with all of you. Okay, give me one chance. Give me 1 minute. Okay, give me 1 minute. I want to discuss something really important with you here. Okay, let me go to this. Okay, I want to discuss something really important with all of you. Okay, I am presenting the screen again. Okay, try to understand with me. Whenever I say that we are going to have question solving sessions, okay, question solving sessions, what do I mean by it? Question solving, question practice sessions, what do I mean by it? Are we going to cover just the study hub? We are not going to just cover the study hub, but we are going to cover the study hub. Okay, are we going to cover the concept based questions also? Yes, we are going to cover the concept based questions also. Are we going to cover the case studies also, or just the single based question? We are going to cover the case studies also. Are you going to take questions from other reference materials? Yes, we are going to take questions from other reference materials also. Will you be using our past exam questions, or which are officially available, past papers, past exam? Yes. And are we going to solve all questions? No, we are not going to solve all questions, but we are going to solve the concept questions in full so that we are able to revise the concept fully. And then for ACC study of question, we will be in every chapter, we will be solving at least 1 to 2 case studies. We will be taking at least 1 to 2 case studies or questions which are given for every chapter in different reference materials also. Today we have just solved the concept based questions and the ACC study of questions, because when we will be having the question practice session later on, and when we will be having it, so we will be having our classes from on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. On Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and every alternate day the class is going to be for question solving. Every alternate day we are going to solve the questions of the previous chapters that we have completed. Okay, and we will be having a lot of other question solving sessions also in the meantime also, and that is why it is important for us to understand that we have to have a good mix of what the concepts as well as the questions. For example, today you have solved the questions. Now I hope you got the confidence that you will be able to handle the question, because you have already solved the ACC study of questions also. Now what I want you to do is, I want you to do what? I want you to go to ACC study hub. Okay, go to ACC study hub and do what? Solve questions. And do what? And solve questions. Okay, whatever questions you want to take, the practice kit or any past paper question, whatever you want to do, please do it. Okay, then if you have any reference material, please feel free to solve the questions of chapter number 1 and chapter number 2. Other than those 3 quality management questions, you want, if you want to solve it, you can solve it, and you can discuss the doubts with me also. Okay, where you can discuss the doubts on any of these channels: YouTube, ACC with CA Agrawal; on Instagram, same name, ACC with CA Agrawal; Telegram, ACC with CA Agrawal; LinkedIn, CA Agrawal. Lectures would be available on www.bbvirtuals. It's not virtual, it's virtuals. Okay, virtuals. Okay, then call or text on the number given in the description, or you can text me on this number if you have any queries. Okay, now when we will be solving the question from different reference materials, so what has happened is, in a lot of reference material, what has happened is that there has been a set of chapters. So on the orientation session day we discussed that the syllabus is divided into certain sections. So all the questions related to section A are given together, and this section A covers 4 chapters. So as of now we have completed chapter number 1, we have majorly completed chapter number 2. Now we are left with chapter number 3 and 4, which we will be covering in the next class. Okay, so once we complete major part of chapter number 3 and 4, then on Monday we can go for the questions which are given by different publishers also, not an issue on that. Okay, so I hope this was a really learning experience for you. I hope you liked the session. Yes, I will be teaching you chapter number 3 and 4 on YouTube on Friday. Okay, but chapter number 4 we will not be able to complete fully. However, there's already a lecture available on YouTube for chapter number 4. Okay, if you go few days back, but I'll tell you that we will be discussing chapter number 3 and 4 fully again in the live mode. But what you need to consider is that in the next class what we will be doing is we will be doing chapter number 2 completion. We will be doing completion of chapter number 3, completion, and major portion of chapter number 4, because we might be running short on time when we will be moving towards chapter number 4. So we will be able to complete the core concepts, not the full chapter. Okay, when we will be doing it, we will be doing it on a Friday at 8 p.m. on the same channel, ACCA with Vishal Jain. Okay, my name is CA Supreet Agrawal, and you can connect with me on my channel also, which is ACCA with CA Supreet Agrawal. So I hope this was a learning experience for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to shoot on the comment box. Otherwise, we can close the session, and I would love to meet all of you again on Friday at 8 p.m. Yes. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I'm waiting for another minute. Yes.